All right, everyone, welcome to the show. This is Bryan. A little bit of technical difficulty there getting going, but looks like we have everyone here. So I'd like to introduce the first projects and thank everyone for tuning in and joining us today. The first project that I'd like to introduce, we have three projects with it today: Privado ID, Verida, and Plena Finance. So let's go ahead and dive right in with Ravi. Ravi Agrawal is the Director of Growth for Privado ID, and Privado ID was previously Polygon ID. So let's give a warm welcome to Ravi and quick hello and an intro on your company, Ravi. How's it going?
Hey, ZM everyone. Going good. Thanks for having me, Bryan, here. Look forward to this interesting space.
Yeah, no worries. Do you want to give maybe a brief introduction about what Privado ID is doing and what Polygon is doing in the ID space?
Sure. Yeah, I think, identity has become a very critical space. And that's where, we have been trying to see how we can provide the self-sovereign identity-based toolkit. And this is what Privado ID is all about. We are providing a set of tools that can enable any projects to quickly integrate their identity needs in it. Originally, when we started with the identity solution with the brand Polygon ID, the intention was to, try and start up the early use cases that can be amenable in the Web3 space. However, we wanted to try and give this kind of an identity solution to all the ecosystem out there in Web3 as well as in Web2. And that's where the rebranding that has happened earlier part of this month. And we are looking forward to provide this kind of an identity layer for most potential use cases.
Nice. Thanks for the intro, Ravi. Very, very interesting stuff. And yeah, excited to have you on the call today. Looking forward to diving into a few questions with you. Let's now introduce Kris from Verida. So Verida is a decentralized physical infrastructure network, also known colloquially now as DPIN, that enables self-sovereign identity, secure data storage, messaging, and single sign-on capabilities. It provides a suite of innovative solutions, including a unique wallet, advanced protocol, and a developer-friendly SDK. Let's go ahead and welcome Ryan Kris to the call. Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Bryan. How you doing? Great to be here. Also with Ravi from Privado ID and also Sparsh, the next speaker. So yeah, look, I think you've given a little brief description there of Verida, and as you touched on there regarding the data storage layer, Verida is very much a decentralized, privacy-focused storage network for the most sensitive sort of encrypted data for users. So we provide a set of tools. There's an encrypted structured database that is the user's vault, and that's where that private data can be stored. There's a decentralized network of storage nodes, and then we have the Verida wallet, which you mentioned as well, which is the access point for users in all the app stores.
Awesome. Thanks for the quick intro. And last but not least, we have Sparsh Plena, who is the founder and CEO of Plena Finance. So let's welcome Sparsh to the call. Plena is the first crypto super app to use account abstraction technology for over 2 years. And it combines the ease of traditional exchange with a fully custody asset. Utilizing advanced account abstraction technology, they're able to eliminate the need for its users to hold native tokens and to have priority blockchain knowledge, making it easy for them to perform complex transactions. So turn the microphone over to you, sir. Go ahead, Sparsh. Okay, and it looks like we may have a technical difficulty with Sparsh. So let's dive right in. If we're joined later, then that would be great. But don't see him as a speaker here just yet. So let's kick it back off to you, Ravi, and just have a few questions that people want to know and have been asking. And so I have a few jotted down here, and I'll dive right into them if that's okay, Ravi.
Sure, let's do it.
All right, cool. So the first question that we have, and this is one that I'm going to ask, the different people on the call, but it's a real simple one. How do you see your technology helping people, individuals?
Sure. Yeah, I think a very fundamental thing, and this is where we wanted to give a perspective of user control IDs. So our project is primarily focused in terms of giving control back to the users for controlling their identity. I think it goes back to the Web3 ethos where we are talking about controlling your assets, controlling your data, and that's where we wanted to ensure that how can a user control their identity. And this is the key focus where we are trying to make identity more better, more simple. Uh, Also adding up 2, 3 key components into it. One, ensuring that we use the ZK technology, which brings in the user privacy, so that exchange of information can be done with more confidence without any fraud. Additionally, this identity bring in reusability that ensures that user don't have to go through the same painful process of acquiring those credentials again and again when they wanted to interact in their digital lives with several verifiers, right? And this is where the reusability makes it super easy, where user get the credential once and they can use it multiple times across all their digital interactions that happen. Last but not the least, I think these are benefits for individual. However, we also aim to bring in the businesses into the equation, and we feel that it has to be also incentivizing the business. And that's where we are working with something where we can incentivize both the credential issuers as well as credential verifier, so that first of all, the verification cost can be brought down and verifiers find it easier to onboard new and new users. And at the same time, issuers can also be incentivized in terms of getting paid for those reusable credentials getting verified again. So I think the intention is to create that kind of an liquidity of the credentials into the ecosystem and ensure that we bring back the control of the individual's identity back to the users. Sorry for the long one.
No, I love it. It's actually really interesting stuff, and I have a follow-on question from that. But we'll give a chance to Ryan to answer the same question. Do you mind chatting to us about how you see your technology helping people, Ryan?
Yeah. Look, it's a great question to kick things off on the panel here, and in similar regards to some of the concepts Ravi is touching on, that ability to really put users in control of their data, and including their identity is part of that as well. So we really focus on that infrastructure piece to help people have that control and ownership over the data that they create, and then to receive benefit for that. And benefit can be in various forms, whether it's truly hyper-personalized services that an application may be providing to you based on permissioned access that you provide to some attributes of data that you have. Or it could be a financial or monetary benefit as well. So we're looking to sort of unlock all those opportunities for people, whilst giving real control and agency and assurance that their data is theirs. It's private, it's encrypted, it's only shared when they make the choice to, and if they want to revoke it, they can as well. So we believe in having that sort of flexible but safe and secure data storage layer there to enable all those things.
Nice. Yeah, that actually leads me to one of my other questions is, it seems like, this whole idea of identity and security, are tricky to get right. Can you talk to us a little bit about how those coexist and what that means for like an actual person? Like, I have my identity and my ID and, my passport or whatever, but how do I know that that's secure other than you telling me that?
Yeah, I think it sort of goes to, I think Ravi mentioned as well, that sort of that copy problem, that the problem where we're always having to present our data multiple times to multiple parties, which basically sort of creates these replicas that then are those points of risk for exposure of that data for nefarious purposes. So yeah, how do we sort of avoid that? And that's by having not having those multiple honeypots in the first place, and then having that sort of encryption layer by default. I think is a really important primitive, and I think there's different types of use cases for different types of data as well. So we need those modular components, I think, of the infrastructure layer, because blockchain, you wouldn't put all your personal stuff there on a blockchain, whereas you want a safe encrypted place for your personal sensitive stuff as well. So and I think a key from a technical perspective, we want to have open source standards here as well. So what is being used to secure that data can be looked at by other developers, by auditors, to provide those sort of technical assurances once you sort of peel back the marketing of the website.
Nice. So if I hear you correctly, actually, this technology, just the existence of it is safer because you're not presenting your ID so many times and it's not in so many different places. Is that sort of what you're saying?
That's definitely sort of goes to the architecture that you've got these reusable pieces of data, these reusable credentials that you control, and you don't have to sort of create copies of them for every other application that you're trying to interact with.
Very nice. I hadn't really thought about it from that standpoint, but it does make a lot of sense. If it's in one place or 100 places, that's quite a difference from a security standpoint. So thanks for sharing that. Kind of a similar follow-on question to Ravi in this is, what would you point out as some of the major differences between Web 2 and Web 3 security from an ID standpoint?
Yeah, I think if I go deeper in terms of sharing my view on Web 2 versus Web 3, I think there are some fundamental difference. For example, when we talk of Web 2 is primarily free, but then we end up paying with our data in most cases. While in Web 3, our data is accessible to all, mostly public chain data, right? Second one could be in Web 2, we have majorly untrusted networks, while in Web 3, we have less trustless networks. In Web 2, again, it's a search for customers, while in Web 3, what we do is we are starting with a community, we grow the community, and there is a value share that happens within the community. Another dimension could be, let's say, we talk about Web 2, which is more like a corporate governance, while in Web 3, we are talking about a community governance. And maybe, in some shape or form, Web 2s are more local market, or they gradually grow global. But in Web 3, this is like a global market day one. So I think there are very, very fundamental difference in terms of the way Web 2 and Web 3 operates and the way they grow. And that's where I believe the security measures should also be amenable from that perspective. Especially, I feel that there are many measures from Web 2 that can be inherited into Web 3, but then Web 3 also imposes certain dimensions that should be taken care when it comes to security. Especially, this is such a new tech that still we need to bring in a lot of education and awareness so that those kind of frauds and phishing attack can be avoided. I think that's one of the lowest hanging security risk, I would say. The smart contract risk are another set of risk where, if the codes are not well audited, I think all the assets can be wiped out and there is no 100 number in order to get those assets back. Rug pulls are very common because there are not many regulations that can govern those kind of fraudulent activities. So I think maybe a security from different perspective. I've not touched it mainly from a technology perspective, but even operational and regulation perspective. So I believe these are like add-ons in terms of security when it comes to Web3.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's great insight. Thanks, Ravi. I'm curious now. Just want to shift the conversation a little bit to some emerging technologies, and I know what you guys are building is quite kind of forward thinking and at the edge of the sort of technological development. But I'm curious how you guys see other emerging technologies such as AI, AGI, quantum computing affecting the security of products like yours and others. And this one can go to Ryan. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, cool. AI, some of those emerging tech. I mean, AI is, I guess, the one that sort of stands out as sort of being here and now, and very much the faster moving category. I'm not sort of too deep on the quantum stuff, but AI. I think when I think about that and sort of security challenges and challenges more broadly as well, I guess it comes down to things like how data is being used, how data is being accessed, what permissions it's being accessed under. So there may be both sort of security access considerations there as well as sort of legal ones that come into play. But Yeah, I mean, look, AI needs data. So, most of the large language models are using the public internet data in that regards. But the next sort of when that runs out, the next frontier is access to siloed data. So, data that is within sort of the various different applications we use in our everyday lives. Some being sort of big tech companies, some being sort of smaller companies as well, but it's in siloed areas. So how do those sort of AI models get access to it? And that's something that we're sort of looking at from a technology level, because we think that's really important. But if that doesn't happen in a safe and secure and trusted way between the AI and the user, then that's certainly a problem. So I think that sort of that access to data, that verifiability of that data as well, in terms of how it may be being used by generative AI and models and things like that, really important things to look at.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes here in the coming years. And Ravi, go ahead if you want to follow on with an answer to that one.
Yeah, certainly. I think you touched upon a very interesting point. There are so many areas that we can see how AI can impact each one of us. From ID perspective, we have been trying to see there are very, very amenable use cases when it comes to the emerging areas like AI, for example. So how can we have the AI agents having an identity? And then those AI agents can also have a bunch of AI agents underneath them. So can there be a parent-child relationship between the AI agent versus their subordinate AI agents? And then how would the compliance be applicable to that? Can there be a revocation of certain identity for a particular AI agent so that we can decommission them from a particular value chain? Similarly, can there be a reputation angle that we can bring into the AI ecosystem? I think that's very, very fascinating, where we can think in terms of providing some kind of a reputation to the AI models, to the contributors, even to the validators of AI models. In fact, one other area which is of my personal interest is where the feedbacks that are getting backed into the AI models, the RLHF, I think those kind of models where they consume feedback from the user, can there be a kind of a filtering that can be applied to the data that is getting back to the models, where only the verified information can fit in, but the toxic information can be extracted out? And this can only be possible in case if there is a verification of the users, there is a reputation of the users who are providing back their review and rating into the inferences that are generated by the model. So I think there are very interesting things, especially as the previous speaker mentioned about the deepfake and the generative AI. I think we are also getting into a space where we would not know whether the content is coming from a human or AI, right? And maybe just painting a simple scenario. Let's say if we see a popular I would say personality or a celebrity being using something which is not something that we are used to. For example, let's say smoking a cigarette beside a baby, right? And we immediately create our own impression about that celebrity, and it can really go negative in multiple ways. But that can be a simple image that may have been created using a Gen AI, right? And how can we authenticate the sources for them so as to not necessarily create those kind of negative impression in the individual mind? I think these are all very interesting areas where identity can play a role, and we are working in terms of ensuring that those use cases can get the authenticity, and we can prevent some fraudulent activities out there.
That's interesting stuff. Definitely food for thought there, Ravi. Thank you for that. Just a quick follow-on question. How long do you think before AI, these parent or the child are controlling bank accounts and doing some of the more sophisticated things out there? How long do you think that'll be?
I think I'm
next
bullish.
year, next month?
I'm bullish. I mean, not next year, next month, but maybe 2 to 3 years from now. I believe this is going to be a set of bots who may be attending this space, and maybe your bot is talking to my bot in order to find out what are the critical points that we should be interacting, and maybe booking a restaurant table for us to go and meet, specifically talking on the shortlisted point. I don't see that to be too far, to be honest. But yeah, I think maybe 2 to 3 years from now, I think what is more important is the availability of those set of data that can be going into the model. And again, I think decentralized technology has a way forward where there could be a lot of data contribution that can happen. And this data contribution, there are not too many data sources which are authentic, and they may not be even current information. And that's where I believe decentralizing those kind of data sources, bringing in humans to contribute the data and keeping those data current by incentivizing them with the help of a decentralized reward mechanism, I think that might bring this technology to life much more earlier.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen fast. So we'll see what happens. Ryan, any thoughts from your side on the timing of AI and bank accounts as it relates to ID?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's always a crystal ball with this stuff, but yeah, I think in that sort of 3 to 5 year time frame, I think, and look, they'll be managing my crypto wallets more than my bank account, I think, in that sense. But yeah, I think it's all heading that direction, so could be sooner.
Absolutely. Well, hey, if either of you guys figure out a way to cut out the fake data, let me know and I'll apply it to my social media. So I think we have a major problem with fake data out there. And so this is really interesting that this actually is part of that as well. I'm excited to hear that. Ravi, quick question for you. Just wanted to touch on what you think the concept of security and as it relates especially to IDs, how do you think it's going to change in the coming years, let's say 2, 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fundamental necessity in order to bring in those kind of security dimensions from an ID perspective. We feel that starting with, first of all, understanding what the type of risk that we might get in, and then addressing those risks or mitigating those risks, across those dimensions, whether it is the education awareness, as we spoke, or maybe a technical risk, or maybe a governance risk. I think those are something that with the evolution of the technology would always come. And we have seen historically that the antisocial people or maybe the fraudulent activities are always ahead of the curve in terms of adopting this technology. And that's where I believe standardizing certain security parameters, ensuring those security parameters are also integrated within the type of solution that we are using, are going to be super critical. Otherwise, I think the learning curve across those technologies is going to be slower compared to the people who wanted to game the system. And this would have, I would say, some kind of an negative impact in terms of adoption of those technologies. So I think security plays a very important role, whether it is ensuring the asset security, data security, or identity security.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. Hey, Ryan, I wanted to kick it over to you again to just ask you real quickly about the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 and specifically as it relates to security and ID and that stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I sort of share similar thoughts with Ravi. Like, I think there is this cat and mouse between sort of the security you can put in place and then the sort of the attack vectors and risks you sort of face. There's always a bit of back and forth. So I think that there'll always be that to some extent. The risk model is different in Web 3 compared to Web 2. So we are in a Web 3 sense putting that control back in the hands of the user and with public-private key pairs and being able to manage those keys and ensure they're not compromised, lost, those kind of things. So that there's risk there in terms of putting it back with the user, and that's where we need to sort of continue innovate, I think, on the security models in Web 3 to ensure that there's sort of friendly but safe and secure recovery mechanisms as well. So Certainly, I think the security issues in Web 2 will just continue in terms of the desire of actors to access private data. So those cyber hacks and breaches, I'm sure, will just continue to happen. There's going to be no abating of that. And I just hope that we can keep also our principles tight around encryption. I think that's really important, and there's this constant push by particular governments to sort of get backdoors into some of these protocols, which it's a slippery slope. So I think we really need to fight hard on that, fight hard for encryption, because that's a key primitive for a safer and secure world for our data going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually at Kima, that's one of the things that we're focused on is, making sure that sort of some of the old risks and some of the old ways that, these networks and these disparate sort of siloed financial systems are stitched together won't be an ongoing security risk in the future. So that's why, we use technology that doesn't depend on smart contracts to move things around, doesn't depend on oracles, and doesn't depend on relayers and things of that nature. So, we're definitely all on the same page there. It's a critical kind of, I think, moment in sort of the evolution of our space. And it's super interesting to see what's happening. Just since I have you on unmuted, Ryan, do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about what you think the concepts of security and how those will change over the coming years? I know Ravi, said a few things, but I'd be curious your thoughts on that.
Look, I mean, I think, if we are to head towards this more sort of user-centric, I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a blended model we have here, right? It's not like Web 2 security and systems are going to just change overnight. So we're going to be in a world where there's a blended set of architectures, and hopefully one where Web 3 is much bigger, and that's a user-centric one in that regard. So there'll need to be more personal security awareness and tools for individuals, in addition to the controls that are built in, I guess, at the protocol blockchain sort of layer, to protect assets and value and identity and data for users as well. So I think it will continue to evolve. It's a really important research area as well, as some of the use cases evolve, particularly sort of going back to the AI stuff we were talking about before. So I think there'll always be security risk. When there's value to be protected, there'll always be someone that's after that in some way or another, because it's valuable to them in their hands. So we'll need to continually evaluate, assess, upgrade, optimize our security practices, our controls, our risk management practices, both at technical and governance levels, to really keep ahead of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. It's a critical time in sort of the evolution of this technology. So thanks for sharing that. Ravi, quick question for you, man. Tell us a little bit about how interoperability plays into the ID space. And obviously at Kima, we're pretty fired up on interoperability. That's sort of what we do. But I'm curious as to sort of from your lens, why is that important and how do we solve for that?
Sure. Yeah, I think interoperability is crucial, and I think that is also one of the key offering from our side. So I believe, how can a user not just get locked in for their data? That is one key primitive that we wanted to solve. So imagine that a gamer who has spent maybe 200 hours of gaming time on Steam, but then all the gamer data, all the gamer reputations are locked into Steam. They may not be able to carry it to another gaming platform they wanted to use it. This can be applicable to many other scenarios. Consider, let's say, an Uber driver, right? All the 5,000 drives that he must have done is locked in for his reputation in the Uber system. So I think interoperability across where a user can own the credential and then those are not locked into vendor, but then they can use it wherever they go across the platform. I think that's a very important primitive for us to enable for the users. So I think interoperability from carrying my assets, ensuring that I get the best service, and from a platform perspective also, they can bring in that kind of in personalized engagement because now they actually get the 360-degree view of a customer.
Do you see that bleeding into Web 2 though? Because most of the time when we talk about interoperability, we're talking about Polygon to Solana or something, right? In it sort of let's call it chain to chain or cross chain sort of interoperability. But what about a bank account? What about databases and things in the Web 2 world? Do you see those as being sort of integral to have it at the interoperable level as well? Or curious to know your thoughts there.
Yeah. I think that level of interoperability would be from a different dimensions. I feel. I think maybe we might be abstracting a lot of that information so that there are abstraction layers which can enable the internal, I would say, pulling of the information so as to give user more unified view. This is again from Polygon perspective. That is what we are trying to see. In case if we can enable with the help of the aggregation layer, chain abstraction is another initiative where the initiative talks about how can we ensure that the user get one single view across all the ecosystem. So may not necessarily be making the interoperable easier, but it's another variant where there would be an abstraction of the information that might be required across the ecosystem, which are more siloed in today's world. And I think when I talk primarily about identity, I think what we actually envision is to bring in the asset data and kind of an ID. And this is where I believe interoperability between the Web3 can be sorted out. But then if I draw an analogy, I think even in the Web2 world, what we are experiencing in the form of open banking or open finance, I think that is exactly aiming to do on a similar space where abstracting out the siloed, let's say, financial transactions. I may have 3 bank accounts. I might have 2 credit cards all across different financial institutions. My mortgage may be across a different banking institution. How can I have a unified view of all my assets? And that kind of an open banking infrastructure, I believe, might be doing very similar thing that we might be aiming to do with the help of, let's say, the aggregation or the chain abstraction, account abstraction kind of the roadmap ahead in terms of tech innovation. So I feel that this is a problem where unless we reach to a degree of simplified user experience, this would always be a friction point in terms of onboarding new users.
Yeah, I completely agree. It reminds me actually of a friend of mine who got a mortgage application approved based on his NFT collection. So this was a couple of years ago when NFTs were rocking, but this is the kind of thing I think about, right? Like if you have a bunch of crypto and you're being underwritten for a loan, that should be taken into consideration as well. And so there's all sorts of things that are, moving between Web 2 and Web 3 that really require this sort of interoperable layer. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's solved. Hopefully Kima is a big part of that. That's what we're hoping for over here. I think we had someone else that just became a speaker. I don't know if it's you also, Ryan, but if there's someone else at Verida that wants to say hello or something, feel free. But curious to know how you think the concept of security will change over the years, Ryan, or Verida people.
Yeah, don't worry about that again. That's just the company account. But
okay.
Yeah, just me. Yeah, so so that was on security, sorry, was it?
Yeah, just security as it relates to ID specifically and sort of the physical infrastructure network that you guys are building.
Yeah. I think, look, I mean, we've been actually working closely with Privado now, previously Polygon ID. So there's certainly that interoperability there in terms of, how do we particularly use like verifiable credentials as a data standard for reusable identity. Like that's a really key primitive that's important, I think, to the identity security model going forward. So that's also relating to the interoperability of the data as well. So I think we see that there's important infrastructure at the data layer to enable that provides that security, that provides that interoperability for the identity piece. Because we're certainly going to have a lot of credentials, and we already have a lot of credentials, but they're certainly not represented as verifiable credentials in like a standardized data format. They're kind of spread over the place, and I think, like Ravi said, we don't have a single view of them. But to have a single view and have them under our management and control just unlocks a whole bunch of easier things to do. Whether it's both easier for the user, but also easier for other businesses to onboard and verify and confirm certain attributes of individual users and identities. So that's all amazing as that sort of comes together, and I think that is coming together. Like on the identity side, we're certainly seeing a big push in Europe from the government level, which is really great, and other countries as well. So that's all positive. I mean, it does still bring in that to bring it back to the security piece. Those verifiable identities and ensuring that we are who we are, and we can prove that when we need to. So there's a whole bunch of aspects there, but I think the digital identity piece is really going to be important from a real world use case application. So particularly those sort of hard credentials that we get from our governments and local authorities, but also then those soft credentials where we build up that social reputation in like a social media accounts and things like that. So that blend, or you may have different identities for each, I think is really important going forward. And yes, the user will need to secure those and will need to be using the right tools to ensure that the private stuff is private and whatever is public, they're happy with that being public.
Oh, great. Fantastic answer. Thanks for sharing that. We're actually flying through the questions a lot quicker because we only have 2 instead of 3. So I'm getting to the end of my questions, but there's one thing that I would like to ask you guys and just have you expand upon a little bit. There's obviously a lot of positive stuff happening in our industry, in the digital asset space and the crypto space and sort of the interoperable world that we're living in of Web3. But there's also things that maybe one would want to change about it or don't like about it. I'm just curious if you guys can tell me one thing that you would change about our industry if you could. Go ahead, Ravi.
I think there are a few that comes to my mind, but I think at least I would speak for 2 if that's all right. I believe the first one that comes to my mind is obviously on the identity side. I think when we started building up internet, we have not actually very well thought through and implemented an identity layer on top of internet. So I think that's where we have been having several silos as well as I would say fragmented identities across the internet. But I think more importantly, when it comes to changing another thing, I believe the whole purpose where we started with Bitcoin as the fundamental layer for electronic payment part of it, I think over a period, I think the narrative has not been supporting to the tech innovation that we brought in. So, I mean, with that magical wand, I would try and bring in those kind of frameworks slightly ahead of the curve so as to take out the negativity and the kind of an impression that has been given to this technology and maybe bring in at least the good side of it, the kind of use cases for expediting onto the adoption.
Very, very insightful answer. Thank you. And yeah, you snuck another one in there, but it's okay. We'll pass the magic wand over to Ryan. What are you changing about our industry, Ryan?
What am I changing? I mean, it'd be great if there was no scammers.
Love it.
That's just the scammers, all that is just, it just sucks everyone's energy. So that I think is, we talk about having great user experiences in our applications, but when scammers get into the mix, like you just like, I mean, even it's here in X, right? It's in our threads and posts, and it proliferates. So that is really annoying. If I could change that and wave my magic wand and get rid of them all, I think we'd have a more harmonious crypto society. That provides an even better UX for all the new people who discover the world of crypto and the things you can do.
Well, I have a favor to ask then, if that's your answer, Ryan. Here's the deal. I need you to shake your wand towards Web 2 as well, because there's a few of them over there also. So let's get rid of them all. But no, I think that's one of the scourges of our industry is it's just we're so new and it's so nascent that people are looking at it and saying that's a scam, and when in reality, actually, it's not. And there's a lot of really honest and hardworking people and smart people in this. And so, yeah, that's something that I hate about it as well. But I think it's actually also sort of a compliment to our industry in that, the bad guys always use the best technologies, and
True.
they seem to be on the forefront of it. So, what can we do? I think it was the same with the cell phone when it came out, the pager when it came out, these things, so, it's a super interesting answer, but, cool, guys. Hey, that's all the sort of the real deep, serious questions I have. I mean, the rest of the things are sort of some fun questions just to get to know you guys a little bit better. But I'd love to turn the mic over for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, whatever. Just have some last remarks from you guys before we dive into the speed round, let's call it. So go ahead, Ravi. A couple minutes to chat to us.
Sorry, Brian. I think I got distracted a bit. What was that?
Just like a couple closing remarks, or if there's anything you'd like to say before we dive into the speed round of sort of fun and silly questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think this is something that I personally enjoy, and I feel this might be helpful for other audience as well, which is not learning about Web3, but living Web3. I think there are so many cool applications that we are seeing, and trying a little bit of DeFi, buying an NFT, maybe going and playing a Web3 game. I think these are very interesting things to explore the technology, touch and feel, and leave that the innovation that is happening in Web3. I believe that's a way forward, and it's just very difficult otherwise to just experience what the innovation is coming out by watching a YouTube video or maybe reading a white paper. So I think I personally enjoy that experience of a technology and putting up my burn wallet to experience all those changes. And just wanted to close with that idea that go leave Web3.
I agree. That's actually been something that I've been saying for years and years is the best way to learn is to do, and especially in this industry, right? It's really hard to see a video and be like, okay, I get it, I know how this works. But if you do it, then you learn it right away. So I 100% agree with you, Ravi. Thank you for that. Ryan, anything you'd like to say before we close this off?
Yeah, look, I 100% agree on that bit as well. Like, that sort of learning and experimentation and trying things out, I think is a great way to really get exposed to all the new things in Web3 and crypto. And you kind of almost have to do that a little bit just to sort of keep abreast, because things, move so quickly, whether it's in the, like the infrastructure stuff we're talking around here, around data and identity and security, or the more, the DeFi sort of restaking stuff. And there's a whole sort of swathe of things that are sort of constantly coming out. So yeah, putting some time aside just to sort of test and play with things on test nets and nodes and apps, I think is really cool. And yeah, look, invite people as well to do the same with Verida. So come check out Verida and our wallet and token and our missions app. So there's heaps of stuff people can do. So yeah, feel free to check out Verida.network as well.
Fantastic. So yeah, thanks to Verida Network and to Privado ID, the previously Polygon ID, for joining us. This last little section is just one that we kind of do sort of like a speed kind of round of questions, and they're really silly questions, and they're strictly for fun, not financial advice. We don't want anyone to take the wrong idea here, but we'd love to just hear kind of your guys' answers to these in the sort of a 1-word or 2-word answers. And if it's neither, or if you don't want to answer it, please feel free to do that. But these are just kind of silly little fun things. The first one is for you, Ravi. Do you want to maybe give us a prediction on Bitcoin on New Year's Eve? Maybe, approximately?
I think a tough one would not go with a number, but yeah, I'm bullish on that.
Okay. Okay. I'm bullish as well. So Ryan, any thoughts on the price of Bitcoin on New Year's Eve this year?
Yeah, it will be 100K plus, I think.
May may that be the truth. I'm hoping so myself. Okay. Since I got you on, Ryan, would you rather be a hodler or a trader?
Hodler. Yeah, don't have time for trading.
Doge or SHIB?
Doge.
Nice, nice. Would you rather have 2 Bitcoins or 40 Ethereum? I know that's a math problem,
What's the
but
math?
feel free to do it in your head too. That wasn't the idea. It's like, would you rather have a little, about the same amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin.
Alrighty. Ravi, let's kick it back to you. Doge or SHIB for you?
Maybe look forward to a new meme. Neither
All
one of
right, I
them.
like that. All right, I like that. I like that. You're more of the bonk kind of guy. I get it. All right. No, kidding. Would you rather have the 2 Bitcoins or the 40 Ethereums, or equal number of, dollar figure?
Yeah, more of an ETH, I would say. So go with 40 ETH.
All right. Especially with this news that the ETF may be coming out here pretty quick. Might not be a bad idea. Would you rather invest in a crypto endorsed by top industry KOLs or one backed by nerds? I think that's an easy one.
Yeah, I think my experiences have been slightly different with QL, so maybe follow a nerd.
I gotta follow you on that one as well. Okay, here's a interesting. Would you rather explain Bitcoin to a 5-year-old or Ethereum to a grandmother or grandfather?
That's a tricky one. I think yeah, maybe I feel that the 5-year-olds are getting sharper and might be slightly easier to explain them.
So it's based on the audience, not the token. I got it.
Yeah.
And the last one that I have for you here, Ravi, and this is a silly one also, but would you rather have dinner with Elon Musk or Satoshi if we figured out who he, she, them was?
Yeah, so I think Satoshi is still a zero knowledge to me and might take up Elon in that case.
Okay, good deal. Hey, all right, Ryan, back to you. KOLs or nerds?
Nerds.
100%. That was kind of like the layup question, the no-brainer. So, Bitcoin to a 5-year-old or ETH to a granny?
Bitcoin to a 5-year-old because I have tried to do that.
Yeah, I tried as well, and neither of them worked in my instance. So I'm going to keep trying on either side and see which one's best.
I'll try the grandmother one next with ETH.
Yeah, good luck to you. I'm still trying to get my mom to receive her Christmas gift from 3 years ago, which was crypto, and she still hasn't been able to download the wallet. So funny story. But would you rather have dinner with Elon or with Satoshi?
I'd love to meet Satoshi, but I'd have dinner with Elon because I wouldn't want to dox Satoshi by meeting him or her or
Nice. Amazing answer. That's the best one I've heard in a while. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, that's it. Actually, we have a few more minutes left, so I don't know if there's anyone in the audience that wants to maybe ask a question or two. But in the meantime, I'd like to turn it over to Ravi to maybe ask me a question if you have anything that you'd like to know about Kima or me or my ex-Binance sort of history, or happy to just have a chat here. Ryan, Ravi, if you have anything that you guys would like to ask me or have the audience hear from me about Kima, I'm happy to answer that. And then also any other questions you guys might have. And if there's someone in the audience who'd like to say something as well, please raise your hand and maybe we can turn it on for a second.
I think I would take that opportunity, Brian. I think, first of all, it has been a great space so far, and would love to understand what is there in the near-term roadmap for Kima.
Yeah, well, one of the things that Kima's doing, and thanks for that answer, is we're launching our mainnet very shortly. So right now we're on testnet, and we have some grants and some incentives in testnet. But the real sort of rubber meets the road moment is when the mainnet launches and we get going for real. So we're really excited about that. That should be in the coming months here. I don't have an exact date, but that, and then obviously our roadmap goes far beyond that to include many other things. But I think that in my estimation anyway, the mainnet launch is probably one of the most important things in a interoperability layer one. And that's what the kind of the point we're at. So I think, all focus is on that. We will be launching a token as well, the TGE event, so token generation event. But in my opinion, the mainnet is really where the bread and butter of our project is. And so we're super excited to launch that. And I'll kick it to you, Ryan, if you go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just going to ask, what assets support, what assets will you be supporting at that sort of mainnet, or maybe you've got multiple phases there instead of the value transfer, the asset transfer across chains?
Yeah, so right now we have 11 chains on our testnet, and those are all going to migrate over to our mainnet. And then we are adding chains sort of as needed, based on priority of projects that we're working with. So, we have all the EVM chains there. We have Bitcoin, which is coming online fairly soon. So you can have interoperability between Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is pretty cool. We have, some of the less traditional sort of EVMs or EVM based ones, such as Tron, which is kind of a little bit trickier. We have Solana. And so, yeah, there's 11 different chains that we'll be bringing on. And our vision is to not only have blockchains on there, but also Web2 sort of APIs, so bank accounts, private information as far as servers goes, like R3 Cordas and Hyperledgers and those kinds of things. So it's definitely a work in progress, and we have quite the aggressive road plan, but that's the short-term answer there.
Yeah, no, I love that piece. I like the reach back into the Web 2 world. I think similar to sort of how we think of Verida on the data side, or the data aspects of that. Having an interface between Web 3 and Web 2 for for your data. I guess you guys are thinking about it from a financial perspective as well, which is I guess you get that connectivity with the entire rails if you unlock that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the idea. And it's not only data, but we also have, messaging that we can send. So, it really, the ability to move data is there as well. And, it's independent of the receiving or sending sort of side of it. So it doesn't really matter. It's a very, light sort of integration that doesn't require coding, doesn't require maintaining smart contracts, doesn't require all the stuff that typical sort of bridges or connectivity layers or interoperability layers do. So we feel like the technology is extremely strong and pretty well positioned to do that. But going back, we couldn't do it without our partners and without the companies like Privado, like Verida, and the other ones that are working with us. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys for being a part of our ecosystem and for building with us. And the sky's the limit, and I think the future is extremely bright for those of us in this space. So that's really all from my side. I don't know if the host wants to turn on a question or if we have any, but I'm happy to wrap it up here. And again, thank you to Verida. Thank you to Privado, formerly Polygon ID, for joining us. It's been an interesting conversation on IDs and sort of the future of security as it relates to our identities, which is supremely important. So in 1 minute, if you want to just say few last words or something, Ravi, go ahead.
I believe we are entering into a very interesting space. There are a lot of infrastructure and tooling things that have been sorted out. I believe the next steps that we foresee in the coming months and quarter for Web3 is more consumer crypto, and that gives us more bullish view of the adoption that we can potentially get in the coming years.
All right, thank you for that, Ryan. Before we hang up here, what are your last thoughts?
Yeah, look, just want to say thank you, Bryan, for a great panel. I think there's so much happening in this space across data, identity, and provenance of that data and identity. It's the use cases are immense. The potential for collaborations between projects, I think, is really really critical here as well. So that sort of allows this exploration of use cases in different areas, different geographies. and then connecting with community members as well. I think brings that all together. So thanks everyone who's listening here on this spaces now and or maybe in the future as well on the recording. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you guys for joining. And again, Privado ID, previously Polygon ID, Ravi Agrawal. And you can find him on Twitter I think you guys know the Twitter handle because he's in here. And Kris from Verida, who's the co-founder and CEO. So thanks everyone. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to everyone that helped produce this. We'll sign off here and keep working, keep building. Thanks
Thank you,
all.
Bryan.
See you later.
Thanks, Bryan.
Bye.
Yeah.